We keep watching these stories play out like it's a movie, but the credits always roll the same way. I mean, think about it. Let's go over the ways: prison or a graveyard, um, taking on each other's sides, turning on each other, backstabbing. Today, we are breaking down situations of all of these artists here, right? All of these artists, and whether they black or white, more importantly, why we as black men have to break these cycles. So let's take a dive into this video. Y'all hit that like button and subscribe. So first off, we gotta start with these people, right? Y'all know that we're gonna do a deep dive, right? So the deep analyst, right? And this is the psychological shift, you know. I think a lot of artists get trapped into that mind state that they gotta be so gangster, you know. They gotta be so gutter, you know. I think they get trapped into that mind state that, yo, I gotta prove myself to the streets, because if I don't, the streets gonna think less of me. Look, at the end of the day, it really don't matter about what the streets gonna think of you. It's about what you gonna think of you, right? And I think this is why a lot of this stuff keeps happening, definitely in the black neighborhood, right? It does. You know, I think it's a mental state. It's a mental state, you know. They'll blame it on whatever they want to, but it's a mind state, man. Some of these cats, they don't want to, you know, be truthful and say, hey, yo, I'm fucked up in the mind. You know, I go crazy at times. You know, sometimes I got to talk to myself, well, I need a therapist. They don't want to tell you that. You know, they'll never say that, actually. Definitely not the black man, not the ones out there with all the money in their pockets. Big ballers. You understand what I'm saying? Not the ones, you understand, that really find it inside themselves to create these excuses, you know? I mean, to create these situations and narratives for themselves, right? So, like Boston Richie, for instance, you know, that little scene he had at the club, you know, like he finna jump on his girlfriend. What type of situation was that? You know what I'm saying? It didn't make no sense. I didn't understand that, and I would never have been one of those guys at the club trying to jump into my girl face in front of a whole bunch of my guys anyway. You gotta make that make sense. And at the end of the day, you know, I believe a lot of shit that's taking place with these artists like Boston Richie and Kodak Black is deeper than that, you know. Like I said, it can be a mental health issue. It could be accountability. You know, I noticed some of these guys, they don't like taking accountability for the things that they caused and started. You know, definitely not when they rich. Definitely not when they in the limelight like these celebrities be. A lot of celebrities, they be spoon fed. A lot of these celebrities, you know, they get driven to situations and events that they probably can't turn back from. You know, that's the only thing I can think of. Maybe some of these celebrities had it hard when they was young. You know, when they was a child, they seen mom and dad split up. It was rough. You know, it was a lot of depressed, traumatizing events taking place in their life. You know, and I wouldn't doubt it. You know, but you know, I'd be praying for everybody. Hopefully, they get their mental and their mind state together. I think that's the only thing I could pray for, honestly. At the end of the day, I do, you know, also feel it's another category that we can dive into, understand the deep analysis of the psychological shift within the celebrity's mind state. It gotta be an overstimulated thing. You feel me? I think these celebrities go through what they go through because they are overstimulated. You know, and if you are overstimulated, it's going to be hard for you to get, you know, from overstimulated into a relaxed state of mind, into an area that you can feel, you know, yourself in. That's just what I believe. I don't think for a second these artists, you know, believe that they having a breakdown. Because if you ask them, they gonna look at you crazy. They gonna, you feel me? I'm talking about might even spit in your face. You know, they might even spit in your face. So you gotta be careful. Uh, and I just did a short about that, right? I did a short about how the streets are trapped for the culture and for elevating mind states like some of these artists have, right? It was crazy if they even took the A&R out of these record labels. Therefore, the artists do not get no help, no guidance, none of that stuff. And we can even go a little bit deeper. I want to take this a little bit farther, right? Let's go. Let's talk about the isolated incident. In Atlanta with Durkio, having a little panic shot, and how that look on the musicians, how that look on the artists. You as an artist, a major artist who's streaming big all over the world, who's touring all over the world, you take your money, your hard-earned money that, it took you a while to get out of the city. It took you some hard work to, you feel me, actually apply to your career lane, to your job description, and dig yourself out the hole. Because let's be serious, in Chicago, it get deep, right? It get hectic. And Dirk was one of those guys that was in one of those deep areas, in those most dangerous areas. And then to be one of the ones who call yourself the voice of the street, you the voice. Oh, I'm the voice of the street. Ha, big joke. Voice of the street, gang. You actually an asshole of the street, and I think that's what you're proving. Time and time again, by being involved with other members of gangs, and also even being called a gang leader. Now that's where you get deep at, right? I think that's where you get real deep. You know what I'm saying? It does, because at the end of the day, you gotta understand what that means to be called a gang leader. I think a lot of us, wouldn't even want to step foot in those shoes, right? I don't even think Durkee wants to step foot in those shoes. You know what I'm saying? And what's happening in the city don't look good, right? It's like the same thing is happening here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You got people that's trying to be just like the people in Chicago. They want to catch bodies. They want to catch hats. They want to sag their pants. They want to run the streets, and they want to, collect bodies and souls. They robbing people. You feel me? They taking what people work for, hard-earned money that people drop sweat and tears for, gang. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of people be thinking it's cool, which it ain't cool. You feel me? I don't think it'd be cool when they gotta find themselves up against their best friend and snitch. It's cool, right? I know. Don't be. Of course it don't. Um, but I think if we can all find a way to come up with, a solution, which probably right now at the moment wouldn't be something to talk about at the moment, because we still got to solve the problem. We got to go to the root of the problem, right? And that is true. We got to go to the root of the problem. And getting to the root of the problem, a lot of artists do not want to be held accountable for. Because let's be real, listening to this hip hop music is sort of the reason that some of these young children is out here doing what they do. The murders, the hits, the robberies, the carjackings, the thieving, the store break-ins, the house break-ins. You feel me? All of that. And at the end of the day, if we got people like The Voice who's not using their voice for the right reason, but yet instead they're using their voice and their career money, their rap money to fund street wars and street violence, use the rap money to pay other young minor children to commit these murders and things of that nature, and we can't say allegedly, because at the end of the day, he has had members in the group snitch on him. Then yes, it's like far-fetched that a lot of these artists be lying. Every interview they do, they lie. Every time you see them on a set, on a TV show, they are lying, right? Gotta be. It gotta be. I think that the real problem isn't just the individuals involved, and it's not just the overstimulation of the internet. We live in an era where negativity gets views, and views get converted into status, right? Young men are crash dummying their entire lives for a 15-second viral moment on TikTok or mentioned on a blog. And we have normalized trauma, gang, and that's the silly part, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? We normalize trauma like it's so okay in the hood. Y'all already know we done came from trauma. You feel me? If you dive deeper, if you dive back a little bit more, you'll see your ancestors and your descendants. They done came from trauma. You know, I ain't talking about slavery, but I'm just saying trauma in general. And at the end of the day, how many of y'all love going through that, man? Everywhere I go, definitely around Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you see arguing, you see fighting, you see shooting, you see people chasing people, you see motherfuckers getting robbed, you see people breaking into things, and it's getting out of hand, gang, right? It's getting so out of hand, but yet we normalize these things, right? When you see a guy acting out, acting reckless, or playing the villain, right? The internet calls him the Joker. You know, the internet calls him the kingpin. Internet calls him the dude. He the guy. That's him. He him for real. And in all reality, in all actuality, that person that y'all call the Joker, the guy, him, he need to be holding accountability or held in accountability for the things that he causing out here, gang. You feel me? Every situation or every event or every act, every behavior that you play off of or play out, yeah, it causes an influence, whether it's a negative influence or a positive one, right? It is, you know, but in reality, it's a deep cry for help. That's what I believe. I believe these artists and celebrities be, you know, yelling out deep cries for help. You know, sometimes they can't take what they're going through. Sometimes I think they sign these contracts, not knowing what's behind that contract or what that contract job description, you know, is descriptive for them to behave and to go through. And at the end of the day, um, once they start getting took advantage of, they start crying out for help. Come on, let's be real. And it gets scary out there in the industry. You know, I think also it's a lack of guidance. You know, I think these artists is not being guided the right way. Some of these artists' friends that you see them with out there in the videos, all on the songs, you know, in the clips that you see them in on their IG lives and things of that nature. Some of these guys don't be no good. These guys just be hanging on to the artists just to use them, getting free money off of them. You feel me? Free clout off of them. All they want is the views. All they want is a little bit of pump it up for their name's sake. And at the end of the day, that shit don't do no justice for the artists. No justice for the artists. You know, it's a few artists out there that have fans come up on them and try to take pictures and try to get autographs. You know, sign my T-shirt. Can I take a photo with you? You feel me? I mean, you'll do the same thing if you. And yet these fans get their ass kicked, get beat up, get brutalized. They get verbalized. You know, they get verbally abused. You know, and it's wild. And it's a total what desensitization to violence, gang. You feel me? Y'all just, you know, insensitive. Ask yourself, who actually wins when these stories go viral, though? I do want to know that. Who wins when these stories go viral of these celebrities? You know, not the community. I know that for a fact. Not the families. So don't you dare go say that, oh, they family win. No, they don't. They family get embarrassed. They family be so embarrassed they got to talk about this, and they got to have little small interventions with his family member just to say, hey, yo, you are embarrassing us. You know what I'm saying? And it's becoming a shame. And even though you are the breadwinner in the family, we are not going to keep supporting you. You got to be held accountable. You know, and that's understandable, right? That's understandable. But let's be real. The only thing that wins is the algorithm. That's who wins, the algorithm. Not you, the family, right? Not the community, the algorithm. So I think this shit has became not just normal, but it's localized now. You know, it's localized. You feel me? Because not only there in Milwaukee, also it's happening. In Milwaukee, also is happening. It's taking place, and it's getting wild. It's getting out of hand. Right? It is. And don't sit there thinking it's just a Chicago or it's LA or an Atlanta problem, you know, or a Memphis problem. Look right here at home in Milwaukee. Look at the MKE streets. We see the exact same mindset playing out on our blocks every single day. The same local beefs starting on Instagram Live, the same reckless driving. You hear me? Same kid boys running around the city, you feel me? They hitting people, they taking people cars, hop out of one, get in another one, getting police chases, all types of shit. And it's getting scarier to the elderly out there, right? So as we see the same mindsets playing out on our blocks every single day, the same local beefs and the same reckless driving and the same cloud chasing. And the cloud chasing destroys family and more families and more families and families on top of families right in our own backyard, man. So, if anything, if you want to fix something, you got to start in our own city, right? If we want our city to elevate, the mindset has to shift first. And I've been preaching this for a long time on the channel game. You got to shift your mindset. You got to shift that motherfucker, right? So many people will take that and they let that shit run out the side of their ear, but that's the truth. You gotta shift your mindset if you want the city to elevate. We can't keep supporting the madness and then wondering why the environment stays toxic. I mean, that's dumb as hell. You feel me? That's dumb as hell. I think that shit, we gotta empower and uplift everybody, right? We do. We gotta empower and uplift everybody in our city, and not just in our city, in the states and cities around, right? It is, and I think that'll help us, because it breaks down to accountability. If you ask me, true strength isn't about seeing how close you can play with fire without getting burned. That's the dumbest thing to do. That's the dumbest thing to do if you ask me. That wouldn't be the wisest, and that's not something that I will promote any one of you guys to promote. So you understand? At the end of the day, I feel like if true strength isn't about seeing how close you can play with that fire and getting burned, then true strength gotta be walking away to build a legacy. You understand what I'm saying? It gotta be. True strength, real true strength gotta be protecting your peace at all costs. And also, I believe lastly that true strength, and the truest of all true strength is being a man your family actually needs you to be. Right? Because everybody know that a family need a family member in there that's strong as hell, that's positive, you feel me? Doubt all the obstacles or objectives that come in the way of that member of the family. And that member of the family will need that support to be, that same Superman, that same hero at all times, at all given times. The moment the family seem like, hey, we ain't got your back, or we ain't on the same bandwagon, then everything get to falling apart. You feel me? And then people get to wondering, like, damn, did this person ever get? Yeah, everybody gets stressed in your family. You better believe that. But true strength only lies in the family members that play a team role, a team membership role. Everybody got to be held accountable. You got to be held accountable for your role. They got to be held accountable for their role. And right now, the celebrities around the world, they're not even showing that. They're not even showing accountability. They're not showing that, hey, yo, us as a family, the celebs, we got to be held accountable too. Nah. At the end of the day, they just showing us, man, you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? You can do what you want, when you want, how you want, right? And that ain't cool. You feel me? That's misleading everybody. I ain't gonna lie. If you ask me, that's misleading everybody. But if this message resonated with you, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your thoughts below, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. You feel me? Real life. Let's keep building the mindsets that build the community. Yeah. I love y'all. Y'all make sure y'all take care, stay safe. I am out.